Zach, how are you?
Doing well. About yourself, Mateo?
Okay. For who don't know who you are, can you introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the current coach at San Francisco Water Polo Club. We're responsible for the programming of the 16 and under and 18 and under teams. San Francisco Water Polo Club was founded in about 2016. I joined with them in about 2020, and we've been one of the top performing teams in Northern California uh, over the last 4 years. So we're trying to build a competitive program up here. And prior to that, I've played water polo at Olympic Club for almost 20 years now. One of the top teams, one of the top club teams in America for kind of post college. And then prior to that, I was at Cal Berkeley and won a couple of national championships there. And so that's kind of my path through the water polo ranks. Played 1 year in Sevilla, Spain, after college or in the middle of college, and 1 year at Polistano in Sao Paulo also. So kind of did a little bit of the water polo thing around the world, and then was on the national team for 8 years also. So
Okay, so you are the perfect first guest for this podcast. Okay, first I want to ask you about the club you are coaching.
yep,
Uh, that's a club. So you are doing a league that's not a school league because in Europe we haven't like school leagues and we only have clubs. So I
yeah.
want you explain me how works the league stuff in the USA.
Yeah, so these school leagues in the USA, they're typically about 3 to 4 months long, and then there's some teams that will just play as that high school team as a club team throughout the course of the entire year. So that'll maybe they'll be a little bit less competitive because they're not adding new pieces. And then a team like San Francisco Water Polo will train the remainder of those 9 months together. Um, but those remainders of 9 months are 3, 4, 5 different high schools coming together, maybe an international player or two, something that'll kind of raise the level as best as possible for us. We're located in Marin, so it's a pretty small population. So trying to put together the best team possible is kind of what we're after every time, because we want to uh, raise the level as high as we possibly can.
So you are playing like 3 months in the whole year, and the rest of the time you just do scrimmage.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of organization around high school water polo right now, and some teams do a really good job. Like Newport, for example, is the best team in the country at the club level, and they're also the best high school team. And it's more or less the same club team and the same high school team, but that it's a nice solid big program with really good coaching, and it's not necessarily the most uh, comparable model for kind of the rest of the country to follow, just because it's a super popular sport in Newport. They get a ton of kids coming out every single year versus different parts of the country. It's you're kind of just putting together whatever pieces you kind of have.
Okay, so you are saying that maybe one of the biggest problem for our sport is that it's not this popular. So a lot of kids starts playing basketball instead of water polo, and so the season is this short because there is not enough participation.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, it's growing in popularity in America right now. We're getting to a place where it's not just California. It's Texas is kind of springing up really big with a number of new clubs. A lot of their clubs are getting to a much higher level and playing a lot better water polo over the last few years. Connecticut's playing some really good water polo right now. They've got a few teams coming out of Connecticut that are really good, and then Florida's also on the rise. Nashville, Utah, Seattle, all places that you can kind of keep an eye on. Hawaii, all places that you can kind of keep an eye on in the future to be kind of in those conversations also, which is a really good sign. The thing that I would also lean on is people are a lot more concerned with concussions with regards to football.
Okay.
And so we're seeing some really big boys that used to be football players come into water polo because it's like, oh, I just had my third, fifth, whatever concussion. I don't like how that feels. You know, you still can get concussed in water polo, but it's a whole different level of kinetic
Yeah,
energy,
yeah.
you know? So yeah, it's on the right track. But if you look at the sports like lacrosse, or even some of the other smaller sports, they're growing faster than us, and they're building pro leagues better than us in America. You know, I think that we have conversations, and then those conversations stop, and we have conversations, and those conversations stop. But it's uh, not moving at the pace that I would like it to move.
Okay, so what's the reason why in the USA you have not a professional league of water polo, and your like top league is the NCAA, but that's a college league, so it's not a really professional league.
Yeah. So we've got the NCAA, and then the USA Water Polo and the NCAA club teams. So the same teams that the colleges compete as become club teams, and then they play in National League. And National
Okay.
League, Olympic Club is in, New York Athletic Club is in, LA Athletic Club is in, Nashville Channel Cats. So those are all club teams that have, and it's the closest thing that we have to a professional league. It's the highest level outside of NC2As, but lack of sponsorships. The NC2A, or I mean, the NIAC, Olympic clubs, and LA Athletic clubs of the world have the potential to be able to raise some funding and raise some money to kind of set it up the same way that the professional leagues in Europe do. But that being said, it's a bit of a challenge to get beyond that because there's not a whole lot of eyes on the sport. There just needs to be, like, if I'm taking a business proposal to a businessman and being like, hey, give me money, like none of this stuff kind of lines up with the amount of eyes that are on it, how much we're going to be getting a return for it. It's kind of just like, okay, let me write you a check because I support the sport, and it's not sustainable, you know?
Yeah, yeah. This problem is really huge in Europe because there in the USA you have a sustainable sport. Like the NBA is one of the best league in the world, and
Yeah.
the really cool thing is that it is sustainable.
Mhm.
Soccer Champions League in Europe is not sustainable. Clubs has to spend a lot of money, and they do it because of passion. I don't know why they are doing it, but I do think that maybe the league that you want to build has to be sustainable, and so without sponsorships, without a big amount of fans, you can do it. And next topic that I want to cover is how USA water polo can win bronze medal without a professional league, and how can you develop those players without a league. So you have to like send players to Europe championships, to Champions League, to Italian league.
Yeah. So we essentially outsourced our national team development to the international community, which it works. It worked. We have a really talented team, which is also amazing. There's a ton of water polo players that play in the United States. I think that it's, you know, more than Spain, more than Hungary, more than you know, name your country. So we've got a pretty substantial talent pool. The problem is, you know, you get to NC2As and that's the highest level in America. So you can train with the national team for a bit, like you go down and do your joint trainings together, which isn't a lot of time together. Especially when you compare it to the CNAB becomes the national team, or the Italian teams basically together for the most part. It's like American water polo. A lot of these guys have familiarity with each other from either collegiate experience or some post-college experience, but the amount of time that they actually get to play a lot of games together is pretty limited. So they did do a really good job of putting together a bunch of pieces in a really short time, and everyone did a really, like, it's a lot of guys who have a really high sort of self-discipline, just continuing to improve, but we could definitely I thought getting a bronze medal is absolutely amazing, but there are definitely ways that we could put the athletes first in a more holistic sense to sort of develop them together as one team. Because I personally, as a player, I wanted to go get a gold medal, fell short of my dreams. That being said, helping the U.S. win a gold medal eventually, I think it would be really good for the sport. I think it would be really good for growing the sport in America. And the U.S. women have done an amazing job over the last couple of runs. So all that being said, I think that the tip of the spear is super important, and then everything kind of follows from the success that you have in the highest levels possible.
Yeah, talking about this, I want to understand uh, how works the the organization of tournaments before the NCAA, because I always look at the scoreboard of NCAA's team, like UCLA, Fordham. I've seen Fordham team win every game, but I can't understand uh, which league are they playing. Like I heard about Division One, Division Two. Can you explain to me easily how this works?
Yeah, so the Pac-10 was essentially created and then destroyed in NIL, but there was water polo never had the same kind of conferences as football, so the conferences were all sort of split up just kind of based on strength, and the mountain MPSF. Sorry, I had to check check a picture. The MPSF has Cal, Stanford, UCLA, USC, like all of the kind of powerhouse squads all in one division. So there's a couple of teams. They'll get like one team that wins the tournament for NC2A championships, and another at-large bid, and I think actually two at-large bids for a total of 8 teams. Then the rest have cherry pick conferences kind of throughout the nation. So you get that together, and that forms your NC2A championship tournament.
Okay.
So you've got about 8. I think it's 8 teams this year. I need to follow poll a little bit closer, quite frankly. But there were So I think there's 8 teams this year. And then you've got all of your conference champions throughout the United States. And Fordham has had an incredible season. Like they've played. They haven't had the strength of schedule as a UCLA, but winning all those games is not an easy
Yeah.
task. So really good job of recruiting by Brian Bacharach. Really good job of coaching those guys up, and really good job of kind of putting a team together.
And so doing this tournament is a lot expensive for a school, because you have to travel all around the country.
Yes.
And so maybe the problem of water polo is every time the same. You have no sponsorship, you have no fans, and you have to afford a lot of costs, like the pool. In Italy, one of the biggest costs for a team is the space in the pool. And For you, maybe is more about journey, take a plane to play in another country. And so I want to ask you about the how many pools are available for every team. Like there is this is there the problem of finding out where to work out, where to train for a middle school, an high school, a college?
Yeah, so if you're starting a new program, it's a total knife fight to find a pool anywhere. I mean, we're located in Marin in San Francisco, and two places that just don't focus on aquatics as much as the rest of the uh, Bay Area is kind of like San Francisco, and then all of the surrounding area. Marin up top is kind of like a little small community. The East Bay is one of the powerhouses of the aquatics community. Then the South Bay and the Peninsula also aquatics powerhouses, but San Francisco proper and Marin have just been kind of aquatics has kind of just been an afterthought. There has been a few notable exceptions, like both of the Woodhead brothers were out of Marin, but it's more of the exception than the rule. And it's just a function of there's been kind of limited coaching thus far. More really good coaches are kind of making their way to this way. A lot of my friends who played in college with me are now living around here, so we've got a lot of high performance athletes, guys who have been coached by a lot of really good folks. But almost every single pool in San Francisco is an indoor pool that you could barely fit water polo in. And then in Marin, there's four water polo teams kind of that are notable, and then there's something like 20 swim programs, and then you've got your various learn to swim programs, and you look at their schedules, and it's like, okay, well, when are we training? Like, and then if you look at the high school schedules, it's like, oh yeah, we've got PE classes in the morning, so there's no morning practice, and then we've got adult lap swim, and everyone gets one lane per person, an adult lap swim, so you can't do any swimming then, and it's like, okay, well, if kids want to if kids want to do the sport well, then where are they training? And so that's kind of just my experience in these two areas. It's just, you really have to be creative about where you get to train, time you get to train, and sometimes it's like, a ton of kids in a really small area, but and that's not unusual. Like when we were traveling in Spain a couple of years ago, it was like CNAB and all these teams were using like every single spot of the pool really, really well. And I wish that was a more understood practice in America,
Yeah, that's an art to like make a training program with a bit of space and work on it. And so, do you think that the new rule of 25 meters pool court will be good for this?
Well, most of the problems with pool space kind of come down to the shallow deep nature. I personally, I don't like the new rules because I like coaching fast teams, and I was a swimmer and a water polo player myself, and so I got into water polo, and it was fun to be able to have a little bit more space to take long drives and swim away from people, score easier goals, distribute the ball because my swim speed allowed me to. So there's shorter pool with shorter shot clock. I'm not necessarily thrilled about it, just because the game doesn't need more shot clock violations, and if we're getting down the pool a little bit quicker, great, but 25 seconds or the reset of a shorter time is all stuff that it's like, okay, well, you'll get quicker shots, but you'll get less passes, less dynamic play. The unfolding of the game will be a little bit less beautiful. So I'm a little bit bummed about, and then teams have to carry their like a full set of goalie caps also. Just makes travel harder. Like,
That's
what are we
crazy.
doing? Yeah, it's like so a goalie cap provider wrote some of the rules for you. Like, come on. Like, yeah. So anyway, I'm not a huge fan of it. Just be like, again, it's like, okay, maybe it opens up some more facilities that were previously closed. That's fantastic. Aside from that, it's all kind of silly. It's because the pools that get polo played in right now are, those are the pools that we're going to play in, at least around where we are.
Yeah, I do think that maybe with these new rules, there will be more intense game because you have no 8 meters of transition and swim, and so maybe it will be better for players who can uh, play in small spaces and take an advantage and take it on the 2 meters line, and maybe that's good for high level teams because you are going to show technical skills from the best player in the world. But I do think that in the lower levels it will be really difficult to coach a team with 25 seconds per possession. It's really few time to build an action, to do everything. Like,
well, and not just that, like I'm watching high school games, and I actually just played in some scrimmages yesterday, and the amount of offensives that refs are calling right now is insane. Like we and we're playing in a 25-meter pool, so it's a small pool that we're playing the new game right now. A couple of masters guys, and we've got high school refs who were calling off offensives all throughout the season for simple just technical moves that literally were we teach all that stuff as fundamentals. So like, and I think there was something like 15 national championships in the pool. So it's like like all of the guys on this team were like really high level, and we we ball turns over, you kind of turn inside, you've got the inside water, you take a step, offensive, and then and it's just, so the new refs are like seeing the physicality of like one step up, and it's like, okay, these guys, I need to protect them. Or you take a stupid shot and you get kicked in the back, offensive, get the ball right back, score. It's like, and like I'm telling the refs, like, you please don't call that. Like like I should be mad swimming to defense and you just gave me a goal. Like we're still, and so that, like, it's gonna make a game that's like, and who wants to watch that?
Yes, that's true. Then I do think that maybe the rules needs some changes because you have no definition of what's an ejection, what's an offensive foul. They are really like general rules, but they are not so specific. So every referee can think about a rule in every way. Maybe you have to change that part of water polo, that part of regulation, not the 25 seconds, 15 seconds. Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, I mean, it's painful when it's like, okay, this person's been reffing for 2 years, and like, I've been playing longer than you were, like longer than you've been alive, or like one of those scenarios where it's like, okay, like I'm trying to help you, like a coach talking about the fundamentals of the game, helping to explain it. Like, yes, this maybe Okay, offensive foul, sure, but like if I'm inside water and I'm separating and I'm not extending my arm, like think about in baseball. Everyone knows baseball in America. It's like the tie goes to the runner, the position goes to the offense. Like just kind of clarify everything super simply, and reps, like I don't know if it's some reps just kind of in the area that I'm around. We've got a few that are really receptive to like, okay, I'm really trying to get better, I'm trying to improve myself. And then there's a bunch that you approach them and they're like, oh yeah, like you're just talking about your team's success, blah blah blah. And it's like, no dude, I'm really concerned about the sport of water polo, because if it keeps getting called like this, no one's going to watch it. Like,
Yeah,
like, like it's not fun for me to play if it's just like offensive, and it's not like, and it's not exciting to watch. Like, we'll never be able to sell tickets. Like I want the sport to grow. And so yes, I'm complaining about how you're administering the game, but if people understand the fundamentals a little bit better, or the refs are brought along with how all of the coaches are teaching the fundamentals, or what exactly looks like what, then we're speaking the same language, at least.
yeah, yeah. And what's your recipe to like share to the world the water polo?
So the two ends of the barbell, right? So you've got the highest level stuff, and then getting people involved at the base level. So teaching kids how to swim, introducing them to the sport with just free clinics, all that sort of stuff, trying to just get that message out as wide as possible. I'm involved in water polo experience, so that takes a lot of Dusan and Dennis Varga. They're traveling in all throughout America to do shooting lessons, shooting clinics and stuff. So that's kind of like more on the inspiration level. And then either one of those, like, you get those kids that are excited about it, more word of mouth, all that sort of stuff. So kind of growing it from those two kind of organic levels. And I kind of think of it as sort of a barbell strategy from that perspective. Locally, what I'm doing is just at the pool every day, trying to get our team better, because again, I think that when you watch really good water polo, it's like, oh, this, like, and you're a 10-year-old kid, you're like, oh, that would look like, and it's a packed house, packed stadium. That's something I might want to do, but yeah, it's kind of a function of, again, like, there needs to be excitement around it. People need to understand it easier, even if we can simplify the rules in a way that the fans could understand, in like a simple 1-page handout. Any sort of things that like make the game more approachable and open it up a little bit are the things that I would really be most
Yeah.
receptive to.
Yes, but like for me, American football is really a strange sport because I've never understand rules. Okay.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy watching it. Okay.
Yeah.
So if there is a match at the TV, I start watching it because
Yeah.
I do think that it's really cool. Okay. Don't you think that maybe water polo can be like this? Because okay, rules are really difficult to understand.
Yeah.
But maybe someone can enjoy the game without understanding every piece of game. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I do think we need to share it in different ways, not to just simplify it, but I don't know, maybe we can start introducing YouTube live of every game, or start sharing it, because I don't know, maybe just changing rules and simplify rules, it's not the best path. It's the path that they are running from like the last 10 years. Yeah,
It's all we've
maybe.
been doing is change the
Yeah,
rules every couple of years. It's crazy. Yeah.
yeah,
So I'm definitely with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we need to think about, uh, you know, uh, building some the image of players to, like, share the brand of player. Like Danish Varga, for me, it's an incredible player, and I do think that on Instagram, the page, uh, I don't know if you follow him, Water Polo Special page.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, he's doing a really good job to share water polo, because we need to create the mythology of those players, and also just share how great is our sport, not just focusing on simplify rules. Or yes, maybe we need to start sharing also how the sport works, but
Mhm.
that's secondary.
Yep. Yeah, no, agreed. I think that the blowing those things up on social media is huge. And you mentioned storytelling there, and I think that that's a really excellent thing too, because uh, you know, we go into the Olympics, and maybe we know about the water polo players, maybe a few swimmers or something like that. And we know about the basketball team in America, but beyond that, you don't know anybody. And then part of the fun of the Olympics is just you watch all these different stories unfold with everybody, and you're like, okay, I didn't care about this pole vaulter at all, but like, did you hear that like all of this stuff happened and then she's still competing and blah blah blah? It's like it's that's kind of the building some storytelling, building some mythology around it. All of that's a really positive, really good idea also.
Yeah, and then I do think that the most important job is done by us, by the coaches, that needs to just passionate every player that starts playing water polo, because we need to just make them passionate about the sports, uh, and so this will be shared from the guy, from the boy, the girl, to his friends, to his parents, just how it works for me. My parents watch every water polo game because I start playing at 13,
Mhm.
and that's our job.
Yep, exactly.
And how do you see the water polo in 10 years in the USA, and precisely in California?
So I think that we're trending in the right direction. Again, I think that there are sports that are outgrowing us right now, and I think that that's kind of it's a significant issue. So if you're looking at lacrosse, it's basically like the opposite of water polo in America, where it's East Coast predominant. It's a land based sport, requires a lot of gear. Uh, about it's 70 or 75% male participation versus female participation. And then you flip it over to California water polo, and I think um, it's about 3 or 4 times bigger right now. And if you flip it over to water polo, it's a primarily California based sport, about 50-50 participation between male and female, which is interesting. Um, and growing, but obviously the pool issue is a really big it's a really big constraint, because you can essentially learn how to play lacrosse on any piece of dirt, but you can't necessarily learn water polo. So you can learn water polo in the ocean. But it's tough. You're taking a tough sport and making it tougher. Or you could learn it in a pool or a body of water. So even if we're not necessarily talking about pools, considering also different bodies of water that may be open and available to teaching water polo, that may be one sort of path to take. Don't just put it in every pool, but put it in every body of water that you possibly can also. um, the As far as the growth of the sport is concerned, I think that we need to do a better job uh, of figuring out opportunity beyond the college level for guys to continue, for guys and gals to continue who want to continue. And that does include going international, but it shouldn't be the only choice. I think and so building at least a semi-pro league in some form. There's been talk about a game with some rule changes in it that makes it so there's like less grabbing and grappling, and kind of incorporated into there's a baseball team called the Savannah Bananas that does a lot of like fan interaction stuff, and they've been doing a really good job of kind of growing that like social media presence, a very kind of fun approach to like getting people involved in the game slash water polo, and it would kind of be a little bit more like the 1980s rules, where you've only got a couple of fouls, so you're playing with your hands up a lot more. All that is compelling and interesting. Again, it's like conversation, and then momentum sort of seems to stop. And when I was coming up, there was a program called Premier League, and that was Stanford and Cal would combine their teams, UCLA and USC would combine their teams, so they were really, really strong teams now. And then Olympic Club, NIAC, all those teams would play together, and so you would have two 18-year-olds on your team, 18 and unders, and they had to play up to, it was either 4 minutes or 2 minutes in the game. And so you had these really, really good teams now, like pro level teams, and then a high school player had to play with a certain amount of minutes in those games also. And so that meant that those high level teams had to practice with 6, 7, 8 high school kids. And so that was like a really cool experience for me growing up, because that allowed, it's like, oh my God, I'm practicing with Tony Azevedo, and I'm going to have to play, and I'm going to have to like not screw the game up so he can win the game, like,
Yeah.
And so if there was and the rules now with just regulations, all that sort of stuff, combining a Cal and Stanford is just almost impossible, and that's happened over the span of 15 years. If we could relax some of the rules again with regards to teams combining or teams moving around, then I think that there's a path there for a really compelling, at least semi-professional league. And that's what I think we just have to take small steps. If we can get some guys funded, get our national team guys or national team pipeline guys funded a little bit better so they can stay in America. And then the next step is funding some of their teammates who are performing well, do something that's incentive based. And then if you've got a team that can get some sponsorships, then you kind of start building out those quote unquote professional teams. But start with 2, then move to 4, then move to 6, then move to 8. And so in 10 years, if water polo is growing correctly and the proper initiatives are being taken by USA Water Polo and any other governing bodies that are trying to push water polo and grow it, then again, barbell strategy. You want highest level, best you can possibly get. That only comes with paying people. And then expanding as much learn to swim, as much splash ball, as much exposure to the sport on the ground level as you possibly can.
Okay, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Of course, Matteo. This is my first international podcast, so thank you.